this topic whenever I've stumbled across any content revolving around the idea or the discussion rather of what a high value man is. It's typically occurring amongst women and men, and then it's normally becomes a heated debate. I know it's a term that's being thrown around a whole lot. Hear it a lot on social media, mostly amongst men, using the term. So when she asked me, I was like, initially I was like, oh Lord, like, here we go. Because typically this topic, whenever I've stumbled across any content revolving around the idea or the discussion rather of what a high value man is, it's typically occurring amongst women and men, and then it's normally becomes a heated debate. When I listen, whenever I've taken the time to tune in to all the internet banter around high value man and what it is and what it looks like and etc., I'm kind of like, a lot of it I agree with to a degree, the perspectives of others, but for me, if I just had to articulate it from my perspective, I would say initially, there's not, to answer her question directly when she asked me, I told her outcomes determine what a high value man, or who rather is a high value man, or even better put, the way I prefer to say it is the outcomes of a man determine the value he holds. What do I mean by outcomes? So I believe, first thing, I do believe there is a such thing as a high value man. However, I don't view that term or title per se, rather as a definite, how can I put this, a definite description. I believe it can vary across, depending on, I guess it can, the way I articulate it can vary depending on what is required from the man, if that makes any sense. So let me kind of break this down in short. So, I always like to ask the questions, rather, is the man that is considered a high value man, what are the outcomes of his life? Does he take care of his responsibilities, his family, if he in fact has family? Is he the type of guy that is willing to own, or shoulder the potential burdens of protection, meaning protecting the people that he care about rather than shying away from it? Is he that type of man? Does he in fact exercise that ability? And if he doesn't have the ability, does he acquire it so that he can do it efficiently? Provision. Does he put himself in a situation where he can provide financially for not only the people that he care about, but his community, because it can extend beyond, his immediate family, his circle of friends. Does he have a circle of friends? Is his circle of friends, brothers, etc., are they in fact stand-up guys? Are they in fact respectable men to be viewed as well? These things really matter in regards to determine if a man is of quote-unquote high value. Does he provide actual value to people? Does he, to individuals that he encounter? Does he in fact, does he mentor? Does he mentor anybody? Does he have mentees? Has he structured himself and his character in a manner in which, he's viewed upon as a person trustworthy enough to approach for advice, counsel, ideas, support, innovation. You know, all of these things, I believe, if a man in fact encompasses at least a fraction of these things that I've listed, I believe to a certain level of degree, because I believe it's levels of value, you know, and there's a magnitude, and there's levels of magnitude of value that can be provided as well by a man, because let's just be honest, you know, all men aren't the same. Some men have more capabilities and tendencies and tolerant levels that exceed some men, but just because one man in fact might exemplify these characteristics that I name on a minimalistic level doesn't necessarily mean, you know, in the presence of other men that do a little bit more, he's less of value. If that makes any sense. So I guess to answer the question, you know, what's a high value man or who determines it, I believe what determines a value, what truly determines if a man is of high value, if in fact anything that's directly connected to him benefits from him. It's not to say that he's a man to be used, but or he's being used per se, but if in fact I believe a man of value and of high value actually wakes up and, you know, and actually goes about his day and goes about his life, you know, with the sole intent of bettering the people in the communities around him, you know, leaving a beneficial stamp per se, a beneficial, you know, mark wherever he stands or wherever he lands, when he leaves it better than he left it. I believe I think a man that's in fact doing that, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale, I believe if he's actually doing all of those things, then I think he could be considered a man of high value. But that's just my take on it. I believe, you know, when I hear the statements or the perspectives on it, I'm under the impression that the idea of what the high value man is normally the man that's most sought after. So if in fact the view of the high value man, as just in regard to the dating marketplace or the sexual marketplace, it's just on a basic level, the guy that's most sought after, then yeah, that's probably the most simplistic view. I mean, you know, physicality, attraction, and physicality and attraction pretty much the same. And his ability to provide is typically the most popular addressed traits of a high value man. And I'm not ruling any of those out. I think those do matter. You know, I think attraction in an attractive man, a man that works out, take care of himself physically, has, even to a degree, you know, he presents, you know, skills of combat or any type of skill sets that lead to direct protection. I mean, I think those things are very, very important, especially in the world we live in. So I'm not ruling any of those out. You know, I went down this rabbit hole along things of, you know, significant things I feel that are significant, that determines a man of value, but most definitely not excluding the things that matter to the sexual marketplace. So yeah, that's my take on it. I just wanted to lend my perspective on that. I believe ultimately though, because there are so many different versions of men and so many choices, and the unfortunate part that, you know, there are many men with different, you know, versions and levels of value to provide. The unfortunate part, I believe, is that a lot of them would never even get opportunity to show it for other reasons. I guess I'll say for another part of this video, but for another video. But I think primarily, you know, there are men that harness a lot of potential to serve, and they actually want to, but just don't know how to begin to deploy it. Whether it's either, you know, from a space of fear, shyness, it could be whatever. But I think for the most part, it's different variations of men of value, and I believe the outcomes ultimately, you know, the men that literally stand up and decide to do the things necessary, you know, and the outcomes and people benefit from it, you know, from his intentions, I believe, you know, that in itself, you know, determines what a high value man is.